I'm Katie Humphrey, and I'm a reporter with the Austin American-Statesman. Welcome to our debate for the Place 1 seat on the Austin City Council. This is one of 3 City Council places up for election this year. And with me are the 3 Place 1 candidates, Alan Demling, Jason Meeker, and incumbent Lee Leffingwell. Election day is May 10th. Let's get started. Okay, first I'd like to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are and why you are running. Lee, if you would go first.
I'm Lee Leffingwell. I'm the incumbent in Place 1. I was first elected in 2005, and I'm running for re-election now. I'm a native Austinite. I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in mechanical engineering, but immediately after graduation I went into the Navy and became a Navy pilot. So 20 years of combined active and reserve service. I'm now retired as a Navy commander. I spent my career as a pilot and captain for Delta Airlines. I served on the city's environmental board for 5 years, 4 years as chair of that board.
My name is Alan Demling. I moved to Austin to get my master's degree in mechanical engineering, and I immediately fell in love with the city, realized that it was a place I wanted to make my home. Lived here ever since. I work as a mechanical engineer with National Instruments in town. I'm running for Place 1 because I think that Austin is at a point in its history where we could either go ahead and turn into what other large cities have become with toll roads and strip malls, or we can hold on to our unique culture and character, and that's what I want to make sure that we do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jason Meeker. I'm running for Austin City Council Place 1. I'm running because I want to take on the insiders at City Hall who have shut us out from a lot of the major decisions that happened this past year. A lot of different groups around town also had to sue their city this past year to try to find their issues, to try to get their issues addressed in City Hall. And I think that's unacceptable. I want a government that's more accountable and responsive to its citizens, and that's why I'm running.
Okay, thank you. Alan, this question will go to you first. The Stop Domain Subsidies Charter Amendment will go before voters in November. Under what circumstances do you think the city should give tax incentives or abatements to developers and businesses?
Well, I think it's important that we only give incentives to companies or to local businesses, because money spent at a local business gets reinvested in our local economy, and it's worth more to us, to the city of Austin, than money spent in national retail chains. And then also to companies that kind of help the greater good, such as Heliovolt. I think we need more green technology companies in our city, and we need more companies that are actively helping the environment and actively helping our population, instead of just helping some population in Arkansas or wherever their national headquarters are. So in my opinion, it's local businesses and businesses that are helping the greater good of the citizens of Austin.
Jason?
Same question?
Same question.
Austin competes on a national level with other cities to recruit businesses here who can help stimulate our economy. We also compete to retain businesses here. Incentives are a tool that we can use. I am in favor of incentives when it shows an overwhelming value for the citizens of Austin. Part of the problem with the Stop Domain Subsidies incident is the numbers don't add up in the citizens' favor in that case. I've looked at it. I've spoken to people in Endeavor. I've spoken to Brian Rogers, who's done the lawsuit. And I think the citizens aren't on the winning side of that one. If we're on the winning side, I'm in favor of those kinds of incentives. They're an important tool, and we shouldn't give them up.
Okay. And Lee?
The question was about domain subsidies.
Yes.
I think that the city has to keep its word. When we make a bargain, we have to keep our word, and as long as they meet the performance standards that we set, I think we have to keep our end of the bargain. That being said, I sponsored a council resolution which passed recently, which will prohibit similar deals in the future. And incidentally, I spoke out before I was a council member. I spoke out against the domain incentive package back in 2003. I think we should actively recruit companies, businesses that we want to have in Austin, such as renewable energy companies and health sciences businesses, but we have to make sure that the incentive process is performance-based and the verification of that is completely transparent.
Okay. Thank you. Jason, you'll start this time. Contract negotiations are underway between the city and the Austin Police Association. Do you think that the new contract should include the consolidation of other law enforcement agencies, such as parks and airport police, under the Austin Police Department? Why or why not?
Well, I thought it was a good idea when I first heard it. It sounds like it's a good idea to consolidate. But to my understanding, an advisory firm that the city retained found that it isn't a good idea because it would cost the city an extra $1 million, and there's no extra addition to the safety of the citizens of Austin. So it sounds like it's not a good idea fiscally, and it doesn't exactly add to our safety, so I don't think it's necessary.
Lee?
Yeah, obviously I support the consolidation because I brought that issue forward. It will cost a little bit of money initially to make the transfer effective because we have to bring our parks, airport, police up to speed. They were not trained to the same standards as our Austin police officers. This initiative will make Austin citizens safer, and it will be more efficient. It will save the city money in the long run, and it will go a long way towards abating the risks that we face right now, as long as we have different standards for hiring, different standards for training, and different command structures within our city police forces.
I agree that it will provide more efficiency with in contract negotiations, and I think it is a good idea. I think having each separate agency negotiate their own contract makes things much more confusing, and it also some of the more powerful agencies can get better contracts than the others, which in my opinion is not what collective bargaining is all about. It's about making sure that everybody gets their fair share. So I agree that consolidating these negotiations is a good idea.
Back to you, Lee. The city's solicitation ordinance has been declared unconstitutional twice. Some people in the community are very vocal about controlling panhandling. Others say there should be more compassionate programs to help the homeless. What's your solution?
Well, obviously my solution is to attack homelessness with the root causes of it, and I've supported several initiatives in the past. 2 years ago in our annual budget, I included $500,000 for funds to fund what we call Project Recovery, which provides for rehabilitation services for some 600 homeless people that are considered to be chronically homeless. Most of those have a mental illness, or they have a substance abuse problem, and many of them have both. Project Recovery will provide the facilities for rehab training, and the community court will be able to sentence these individuals to rehab on the third offense.
I've said this before on my website and other places, but there are two root causes. Well, there are many root causes, but the two major ones for some of the homeless problems that we have. It's mental health and substance abuse problems. And we should be having more help from the state and federal government, but we don't with our current state and federal government right now. So we need to attack it at a local level. So we need to be providing more facilities for more mental health, mental retardation facilities, and also more substance abuse facilities. And we need to make sure that the ones who are making an active effort at no longer becoming homeless have a helping hand to find their first job and find their first apartment and get their feet off the ground. And then once they do that, they can take over the reins themselves, and we can move on to the next, and we can slowly attack the problem from the root causes.
Jason?
This is a real tough problem. We have an economy that's really challenging to a lot of people, and so it's hard to afford a place to live here in Austin. We also have a challenge because a lot of the state funding and national funding for mental health has gone away, and so our city is having to bear that burden. On the one hand, there's a police problem here where if someone is really causing a nuisance, that's a police matter. But if it's a person who has mental health issues, who's on the street and is having to panhandle because they really have no other choice, our job as society is to point them in the right direction. And I think our cities can rise to this challenge and make sure its homeless are taken care of when they can't take care of themselves.
Okay. In this race, the Walmart development at North Cross Mall has been a point of contention. Lee, do you feel like you did enough to address the neighborhood concerns and broker a compromise with Walmart's resources? Jason and Alan, what would you have done differently?
Start with me. Well, I think in the history of our city, we've often had developers taking advantage of loopholes in some of the zoning ordinances and things like that. But we often don't, the citizens don't get the advantage of being able to look into some of those loopholes. I think from a legal standpoint, I'm not going to say whether or not the city took the right position, because in my opinion, a judge ruled on that case and that aspect of it is over. I mean, there may be appeals going on, but we'll let the judge get into that. But from my position, as an engineer, there's always problems that you're going to face that you look at and you say, there's nothing, I can't do anything about this, but you keep looking at it and eventually something will show up. I think there could have been situations that could have been used, transportation, how the development's going to affect the neighborhood, other things like that, where we could have found a way out. In my opinion, a Walmart does not belong on Anderson Lane. Walmarts belong on frontage roads, on major highways, so that they don't cause major traffic concerns.
The situation isn't over. I'm here to tell you, there's the possibility of appeal from two organizations. I wish things have gone in different directions in so many ways, so it's hard to address in 60 seconds. But for the most part, the problem can be boiled down to no Walmart people who say no Walmart, and then other people who are concerned about traffic and crime. Those are legitimate concerns. And I don't think the traffic part of this was adequately addressed by the city, nor by the city council. I'm particularly critical of Lee Leffingwell in that he called for a 60-day moratorium between Walmart, the city, Lincoln, and citizens, and did nothing to that during that 60-day period to put together communication between each of those parties.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I did call for the moratorium, and I did work to put the parties together. That's just factually incorrect.
I wasn't there.
First of all, the Walmart application was what we call a statutory approval. It was completely met all of the city requirements. The statutory approval case does not come to the city council. This case never came to the council because the council is a legislative body, and we only deal with items where there is some flexibility or some opportunity to make a decision. We had no opportunity here. The council was not in the loop. There was a staff statutory approval. That being said, a couple of groups sued the city saying that the staff decision was incorrect. That went through the court process, and 2 judges ruled that the city staff decision was correct in this matter.
All right. Jason, we're back to you. One of the more contentious issues before the City Council lately was the proposed Villa Muse entertainment studio development. The City Council voted 4-3 against releasing the project from the city's future growth area. If you were on the council for that vote, please defend your vote. And if you weren't, please explain how you would have voted and why.
Okay. I first want to say, I'm still adamant that it's a traffic and crime problem at North Cross. So Walmart or no Walmart, there's action that the city can take, and they should be taking it now that almost 2 years have passed. Okay. With the Villa Muse project, I would have voted in favor of it. However, because I think it's a tremendous opportunity for our city to boost its movie industries here, gaming industries, and it sounds like it would be a tremendous boost to our economy with jobs. However, I do not like the way that the developer wanted to have it pushed through council in such a quick fashion. That gives me incredible pause for any deal. Haste makes waste. And so as your council person, I'm going to really have a hard time approving something as fast as possible. The city should have the adequate time to really look at a deal and understand what they're getting into.
Lee?
Yeah, I was one of the 4 who voted against the Villa Muse application for a release from the city's ETJ, along with Mayor Wynn, Mayor Pro Tem Dunkerley, and Councilmember Kim. And the reason I did that is because once that 2,000 acres is released from our ETJ, there was absolutely no assurance that we could ever get it back. The second item of concern was that land was largely in the floodplain. They would have been able to develop that without the supervision of the City of Austin staff. It was a very big environmental concern. But back to the ETJ release, no assurance we could ever get it back. That would have amounted to the biggest mixed-use retail subsidy we have ever given in the City of Austin. That would have been a huge subsidy, and I thought that was unfair to the taxpayers.
I agree that some of the aspects of the deal were not advantageous. I think developments like the Villa Muse are good for our city. We just need to make sure it's happening at the right areas, at the right places, with the right people, and you know, the city is getting its fair share from it. I think you know, there's environmental concerns, but I think things like that help boost the economy, and they help increase our artistic community, which I think is a major aspect of what makes Austin a great place to live. And I think we need to embrace that, and we need to you know, get more developments such as that into Austin. It's kind of a shame that they immediately threw in the card, okay, well, we're just going to go look somewhere else, and we can't really negotiate with them and find maybe a better place for them. But I think that's a place where we could work to come to a better agreement with them.
Neighborhoods have complained that they spend forever writing neighborhood plans that are then ignored. If you think it is necessary, what specifically would you do to increase the power and enforceability of neighborhood plans?
Well, first of all, I disagree with that. I know there are frequently discussions when neighborhood plans are adopted, but I think everyone on council, certainly myself, and I consider myself one of the strongest neighborhood advocates on council. I would say there's none stronger. We give a great deal of credibility to the neighborhood planning team's recommendation in adopting neighborhood plans, both the future land use map and the individual tract zoning within the neighborhood. And once that is in place, I personally give great there's a great deal of trepidation for me to want to change those plans without the concurrence of the neighborhoods. I think my record is clear on that. I have a strong record of supporting neighborhood options on VMU, opt-in and opt-out, and a strong record of supporting neighborhood plans.
I agree that as I've been on the campaign trail, one of the things I've heard over and over again is that the neighborhoods feel like it's very hard for them to get a voice on council, and they feel like you know, the public doesn't get their input until sometimes after a decision has already pretty much been made by the council, and I think that's a shame. I think one of the problems is that developers generally have more money than the neighborhood associations, and they can hire better lawyers, and they can hire lawyers that find the loopholes that you know, benefit their clients the best. And I think that's a shame. And you know, the neighborhoods need to have friends on the council who are putting their thoughts first. You know, Austin's a great place to live, not because we have giant skyscraper condos downtown. It's because we have unique neighborhoods and a unique culture, and we need to hold on to that culture. And I'm afraid that we're going to be pushing it out as we have more and more developments that are, you know, coming into neighborhoods and affecting the character of them.
I wasn't able to win the Austin Neighborhoods Council endorsement recently. I was really upset about that, but Lee Leffingwell wasn't either, because his record does speak for itself. They weren't able to support his bid for re-election because he has not been a friend to neighborhoods in specific cases with North Cross, with Town Lake Animal Shelter moving to the east side. There's a lot of work to be done there, and as councilperson, what I want to do is I want to change the way that we work with our neighborhoods. I want to create a department of neighborhoods. Other cities have this, and it's worked real well in that it creates a structure within the city government where zoning isn't a one-size-fits-all scenario. It looks at the particulars of a given neighborhood, and it foresees problems well in advance before they come about. And so a situation like the North Cross Walmart wouldn't have come about because developers and neighborhoods would have been working together beforehand, and so problems won't be happening in the future. It'll save citizens money. Lawsuits will stop as our city continues to densify, and developers and neighborhoods clash or don't clash.
All right. This is a question about who you would look to for guidance when making decisions. Jason, you've billed yourself as an outsider who would shake up City Hall, but along the way you've also criticized city staff members' recommendations. If elected, to whom would you look for advice?
Well, you obviously, whenever you're looking for a solution to a problem, you go to the experts. So if it's environmental, we've got to talk to the environmental groups. They know their stuff really, really well. If it's a neighborhood-related issue, we got to go to the neighborhoods. If it's transportation, there's groups all over the city that deals specifically with transportation. I mean, we just have to make sure that we're going to the right groups. And I think sometimes, people in government tend to get into their position and they think, well, everybody in this city probably thinks exactly how I do, so I'm just going to make the decision based on my opinion, and that's wrong. I think one thing that people have learned from me during this campaign is that I'm open to everybody. I've made a lot of great friends while I've been running this campaign, and I feel like nobody can say anything bad about the way I've run my campaign, and that's because I'm open to hear what everybody has to say, and I take it. Everybody has the same say at the table when they come and talk to me, and I feel like that's one of my strengths.
I would turn to the people. I mean, the city belongs to the people, and the people should guide a lot of the decisions that the city makes. I am very critical that a lot of important decisions this past year and in previous years haven't solicited enough public opinion, and so the opinion that is usually rendered by the council creates a firestorm. In running for city council, there's no shortage of people ready to offer their opinions and their expertise. Incredibly smart people with really great ideas. And a common refrain from a lot of them is that they've tried to approach the city and they've tried to be part of the process, but they haven't been able to find ears there to listen to them. And I want to open my door at city council and make sure that people who have expertise and want to be involved in the process, which is so hard to craft good public policy, but shutting people out creates a bad result in the end. I don't want to do that. So I'm turning to the people in addition to the city staff. We should have a lot of the people come in because they have expert opinions just as well.
Well, the answer is you have to listen to everybody. And we have a lot of input on every decision that we make. We listen to neighborhood group stakeholders. We have advice from our extensive city board and commission system. If it's an environmental board matter, we'll get their opinion. We'll also get either the Planning Commission or the Zoning and Planning Commission. We'll get a staff recommendation. You kind of have to put all that stuff together. Every week before a council meeting, I will have requests from people who want appointments to talk about particular items on the agenda. I will submit my calendar to you on request to show you that most of my time is spent talking to neighborhood groups. Again, I've been very supportive of their opinion. I have to take everybody, all the data that we have, and it's very extensive, it's very credible, it's very thorough, to make sure that we're able to put all that together to make the best decision possible in the interest of the community as a whole.
Okay. And one final question about environmental issues. Lee, you have been an advocate of water conservation while on the council. What are you most pleased to have accomplished? What else needs to be done? And what would you, Alan, and Jason do if elected to the council related to water conservation? Alan?
My turn. Well, first and foremost, the environment is a very high priority for me, and it's not just, I am an environmentalist, I'm a member of the Sierra Club, I'm a member of the Travis Audubon Society, but it's also because it's so intimately tied to our future. Gasoline is at $3.50 a gallon now. It's going to affect our economy drastically. We need to make sure that we're conserving water to save our energy costs, because one of the biggest uses of energy is pumping water to people's houses. We need to make sure that we're going down the path of zero waste, and we get the single stream recycling down as fast as possible. But what I would want to do on a city council is just make sure that it's an absolute priority, and make sure that these things aren't taking 30 years as they have in the past, and we need to get it done as soon as possible, or else our economy's going to be shut.
The Sierra Club didn't endorse Lee Leffingwell, and this is one of the reasons why. We don't have an aggressive enough water conservation program in Austin, and it's something we really need to step up on. We're about to build a $500 million water treatment plant in order to use the same amount of water we're using right now, and we need to cut back on our water. We've already spent as a city $90 $1 million over 20 years to build a water treatment plant, and nothing has been built. So I'm very critical of this. But the thing that's really interesting to me is that the city hasn't seen the drought that happened in Atlanta, Georgia, as an opportunity, a real challenge and opportunity to change the way that we're using our water. Atlanta came 2 months when it was 2 months away from having no drinking water. That's tremendous. Well, here in Austin, we don't meet the strict conservation standards that Governor Perry has asked people to meet. We don't meet the standards that San Antonio has. We don't meet the standards that El Paso has. We are drunk with our water, and we've got to change that situation and cut our water supply.
First of all, I disagree that we don't compete effectively with El Paso and San Antonio. San Antonio is full of individual water wells. Nobody knows how much water they use. El Paso has been in a drought crisis for a generation. I was proud to chair the task force that adopted a water conservation policy that put off the construction of a water treatment plant for 4 years and saves 32 million gallons a day off our peak water use. That translates into energy saved, which in turn translates into reduction of greenhouse gases to the tune of about 40,000 tons of carbon dioxide every single year. We're building on our program, which has already been called a template for municipal water conservation by the American Water Works Association, which, by the way, named me Conservationist of the Year for that program in 2006. Finally, we have a citizens panel which is constantly working to increase our water conservation measures going forward.
Right now I'd like to ask each of you to make some short closing remarks, starting with Jason.
How long do we have for this?
90 seconds.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you very much for having us today. I would like people to go to my website because it's such a quick interview. It's jasonforAustin.com. You can see some of my ideas there. The Department of Neighborhoods is further explained. I also have an idea for a public advocate office that I think can help people have a better relationship with their government. They won't feel so shut out. This is the essence of my campaign. I'm fighting against the insiders who I think are making decisions and running the government without our input, and I'm running against Lee Leffingwell for this very reason. I think he may not understand how his decisions have impacted the neighborhoods, but I'm on that ground level and I've seen it. I know that whenever he takes money from Armbrust & Brown, Richard Suttle's law firm, he's politically tone deaf, and that he takes the money after our trial concludes and before the verdict is rendered. He just doesn't understand what kind of a message that sends to the people, that he is on the take from those kinds of people and not on the sides of the citizens. I think the water treatment plant is a multi-zillion-dollar boondoggle. I think it can be put off much, much further if we try to attack our water conservation problems with some seriousness. He says that he's the Environmentalist of the Year by some organization, but his goal only decreases our water usage by 1% per year per capita, 1%. You go to your boss or your shareholders and you say you've increased productivity 1%, and that was your goal. You seek a raise with that. 1% was the best you could shoot for. You should be fired if 1% is the best you can shoot for. We have to be much more aggressive and meet Governor Perry's recommendations for water usage and meet other cities. We can do this. Austin, Texas can do it.
First of all, it saves about 12%. As I said, 32 million gallons a day over a period of 10 years when the plan is fully implemented. So that's just baloney to say it only saves 1%. It saves 12%. And as I said, we're going forward from there. But the closing statement, excuse me, the lawsuits that we talked about, that citizens having to sue the city, they cost the taxpayers $700,000. That money could have been used for a lot of useful purposes. The Town Lake Animal Shelter, that was bond money that was approved by the voters for the specific purpose of moving it to the Levander site. We could not have done anything else. And by the way, all of the animal support groups in this city support moving it to the Levander site. I just want to mention briefly that I've been endorsed by this campaign so far by every Democratic club that has made an endorsement in my race. I've been endorsed by the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, by the Central Labor Council, by the Austin Police Association, by the Firefighters Association, by the EMS Employees Association, and by the Austin Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus so far, and I'm sure I'll get more endorsements going forward.
Well, I'd just like to start by saying I've enjoyed running this campaign. It's been a grassroots campaign, and I think I've done extremely well considering both of my opponents and the contacts and money and that they have been able to deal with. I'm running for city council because I think we're at a point where we need to make sure that we get people on our city council who are intimately involved with the culture and the unique character that make our city great. The reason people are moving here is not because of the weather, just the weather. It's because you can go downtown and you can enjoy live music. You can go downtown and you can meet your friends at a bar and you can have a good time. And I think that's being threatened by some of the decisions that are being made. Real briefly, it's very difficult to go through an entire platform and distinguish yourself really greatly among these two candidates, but I encourage people to visit my website, allendemling.org. My major platform topics are improving our public transportation system, and my focus is also on alternative forms of transportation, such as cycling, making sure we're not harming our environment, making sure we're not reducing some of the environmental concerns, responsible growth, and transparency in government. Thank you.
Well, thank you, candidates, for participating in this Austin American-Statesman debate for Place 1 on the Austin City Council. And please continue to check with Austin American-Statesman and statesman.com for continuing coverage of these City Council races.
Thank you.